Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. This is the post-fight review for the Joe Joyce vs Michael Wallisch fight, which was on a Frank Warren card on BT in the UK. So this largely went to the script that many expected, all over inside 3 rounds. Michael Wallisch, he would come to fight, but he would get worn down and worn out, taken out by Joe Joyce, and literally that is exactly what happened. But there were a few concerning things in the fight, if I was Joe Joyce, that I wouldn't exactly be too happy with, especially round 1. If you were Daniel Dubois watching that, knowing you're going to be facing Joyce in a few months, I think you'd be pretty happy with and salivating over the prospect of being able to exploit some defensive frailties. But we'll come to that. But the fight proper, all over in 3 rounds. That first round, Michael Wallisch actually had a lot of success. It was still a Joyce round for mine. He was coming forward, unrelenting pressure, almost like disregarding Michael Wallisch's power, trying to walk through him and just really bulldoze him. But in the process of Joyce being so defensively irresponsible, he was getting caught with a lot of shots, and I mean a lot of shots. Started off early with a number of left hooks, and then Michael Wallisch started to find the right hand, and he was landing it with, a high degree of frequency. And it was one of those things that, if he had have taken a few more shots, maybe you could have given the round to Wallisch. I gave it to Joyce based on his activity because there was a lot to like from Joyce in terms of the jab. He was mixing it up, body and head. There were some good body shots, but he was just taking far too many shots. And on Twitter, I saw a number of people sort of similar commenting like myself going, gee, there's a lot of shots that he's eating and unnecessarily. And some might say, well, it's a bit of rust, but no, it didn't look like rust. It just looked like he just wasn't, being defensively responsible. But round 2, Michael Wallisch started to wilt a little bit. The weight of Joyce's punches, the unrelenting pressure. He didn't give Wallisch a break in there, just kept coming, kept throwing, jabs to the body and head, and the body shots really started to sap Michael Wallisch. Then late in the round, he actually lands a very nice body shot and then follows up with a couple of, head shots, overhand right, which sort of clipped Wallisch, and he was sort of down on the canvas, sinks to his haunches, takes a count. And from that point, you just knew it was going to be all over pretty quickly. And in the 3rd round, 2 further knockdowns. And the final knockdown, which caused the ref, Ian John Lewis, to step in and wave it off, it was a cracking right hand followed up with a vicious left to the body. And this is it on screen. And Wallisch, at that point, you knew it was all over. And the writing had been on the wall since the first knockdown late in the 2nd round. So overall, Joyce, he did what was expected. He got the win. He keeps his unbeaten run alive. He is now 11-0. He gets another stoppage for his record, and he is now looking at a date with Daniel Dubois later in the year, October the 24th. But, that first round, it was pretty concerning. If I was Daniel Dubois, seeing that, because Joyce started, it seemed to be, he was just plodding forward and taking all manner of shots and not really sort of worrying too much, but he was getting caught far too often. And if a guy like Daniel Dubois is able to catch up with him, he could actually separate Joyce from his senses. He was far too open. And this isn't just some sort of one-time thing. Joe Joyce is open to being hit, and in a number of his other fights, he has been clipped by guys that aren't really big punchers. And Michael Wallisch, not a big puncher himself, but he can't afford to, have those sorts of defensive lapses against Daniel Dubois. Because Dubois, if he catches Joyce and manages to rock him, he's a finisher. He's going to just basically pour it on, and he could potentially stop Joe Joyce. I mean, seeing that first round and how slowly Joyce started in terms of the defensive end, he got better in round 2, and he actually started to slip a couple of punches. But, that first round, a massive red flag. And it does sort of just tilt my thinking on that Dubois-Joyce fight just a little bit more in favor of Daniel Dubois. But if Joyce can actually, have a full training camp, and I do expect actually we're going to see a slightly different version of Joyce for that fight with Dubois. I expect with Ishmael Salas, because Joyce will go back over to the US, he will train with him, have 2 months in camp or whatever it's going to be, and then obviously come back and fight Dubois in the BT studio, no fans. I think he's going to be working on movement. I think maybe he didn't want to show too much tonight in terms of what he has been working on, some of the things that they've got in their locker for the Dubois fight. I don't think he can afford to just chug forward, throw a lot of punches, and expect that he's not going to get hit. Because if he comes straight forward at a guy like Daniel Dubois, he's going to get cracked, and it could end up being, all over. But what did you make of this performance? Yeah, it was round 2, round 3. I thought Joyce looked good and decent, a lot of volume, thudding shots. He's not the fastest guy in terms of the punches coming in, but when he hits you, you stay hit. And some of those body shots were really telling, and they were sapping Michael Wallisch fast. And we know that Daniel Dubois hasn't necessarily fought a guy as good as Joe Joyce. But yeah, he's got to tidy up on the defensive end. I think the offensive stuff, the jab, body and head, that looked good. A few other things, the body shots, it was nice. But he is going to have to tie in a few other things if he wants to beat Daniel Dubois. What did you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.